Hey there, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Strawberry Hill Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Simmons, and we were here at the Shop Cigar Lounge, as always. And before we get started, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Make sure you follow us on the platforms. We're on Instagram, on Strawberry Hill Podcast, on Facebook, Mike and the Mic, and whatever else. And on YouTube, yes. And before we get started, I'd like to introduce my guest today. We have Mr. Phil Isley. Is it Isley?
Yes.
Like the Isley brothers.
That's correct.
From Perdomo Cigars. Yeah, how you doing, man?
Doing well.
And if you guys didn't know, I mean, you probably recognize Phil. Like, where do I know that face from? Used to manage Fidel's for quite some time.
That's correct.
Yeah, so you've been in the cigar world for a while. So how long?
Over 5 years now.
5 years?
I started working at Fidel's in September of 2018, right after my birthday, and I was there for 5 years. And so this September would have marked what would be my 6th year in the business. But I started with my current company, Perdomo Cigars, back in January. So haven't been with them for a full year yet. But Fidel's September 2018. So if you go from that all the way to this past month, then that's 6 years.
So what got you into cigars to begin with? So 2018, that's not too long ago.
No,
So I'm sure you were smoking cigars before that.
Oh, yeah. I started in college, and really I got my start because my grandfather, who I'm named after, he happened to have a collection of old tobacco pipes, which I inherited. And when I was in college, I wasn't really much of a cigarette smoker, but I wanted to get into... I picked up one of the old pipes one day when I was back home, between, I think it was probably between semesters, and I said, I'd like to give this a shot. So, picked up his tobacco pipe, brought it back with me, and I went to college in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which, by the way, there's no cigar, there's nothing like this.
No. Well, there's nothing like this anywhere.
Nothing like this, yeah, exactly. But there's not even like a Fidel's or you've got couple places that sold tobacco. So I was buying pretty cheap, like Captain Black pipe tobacco that came in little pouch bags.
So you started off with pipe tobacco.
I did start off with pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
Because really, you want to go all the way back to the beginning. It was pipe tobacco that really got me into smoking cigars. And I think the big thing for me is that I didn't do cigarettes as a kid. I didn't smoke weed or anything else because I grew up with pretty bad asthma.
Really?
Oh yeah.
And you're still smoking cigars.
And I smoke. Well, you don't inhale.
Yep, very true.
Like Bill Clinton would say, you don't.
Yeah, I did not inhale.
I did not inhale. So I was able to get into pipe tobacco. It was kind of a ritual, like learning how to pack a pipe and learning about the different blends, aromatic, versus non-aromatic. But I didn't really have anyone to teach me at that time. The only person that I knew when I was in college that was really into cigars, pipe tobacco, was the university president. And he was a member of my fraternity, an honorary member. And he used to walk around campus with a lit cigar or a lit pipe in his mouth. And when you sat in one of the classrooms in one of the academic buildings, or if you happen to be in a dorm and James Pfeiffer came walking by with his cigar or his pipe in his mouth, you could actually smell the smoke as it wafted in. So that was my introduction to it. I spent a semester in Washington, D.C. That was my last year of college. And while I was
went from Iowa to D.C.
Iowa to D.C., yep. I did one semester out there doing an internship, and during that time, that's when I really first started getting into cigars more than pipe tobacco. I still smoke pipe tobacco, but I was also buying the occasional cigar with the college kid budget that I had.
Yeah.
Which was not
probably like $7 a week.
Yeah. Well, probably less than that.
Yeah. So what would you go to school for?
Political science.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're definitely, it's quite the 180 turn.
Yep.
Like political
Well, I
science.
started as a studio art major too. So, but like when you're in college, you tend to do a lot of different things. Try
so what
things
made
out.
you want to get into political science?
As a kid, I always enjoyed. I enjoyed politics. I enjoyed watching the news with my dad, and I got into it that way. I was involved in some political campaigning as a kid.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well, my grandmother served on city council and actually ran for mayor in my hometown in Liberty one year. That was 2004. So, I got involved. I sort of got an interest in politics during that time. When I was in college, originally I wanted to do studio art, and I dabbled a little bit in poli-sci. I took it as a minor, but eventually I decided that I wanted to focus more fully on it. So I was really into the social media marketing campaign aspect, campaign finance, fundraising. So I did a lot of research and study on that. When I went and did my internship, I worked for a think tank in DC, and I did a lot of social media analytics for them. So that was kind of, I enjoyed that a lot, just because I got to sort of stretch my social conscious as far as getting to know people, getting to meet different people, getting to talk to people and learn why it is they think the way they think and why they do things the way they do.
Yeah.
And I think that this premium tobacco is something that really kind of helps facilitate those conversations.
Oh yeah. I always tell people this is the greatest conversation starter you'll ever have. So, do you have any aspirations of running for something one day, like Mayor Phil and Casey Mo?
No.
We got Mayor Q, then we got Mayor Phil.
No.
Never.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Maybe when I'm retired from doing what I do now. Most likely. I just, my thing is that doing what I do now, I'm on the road, as you know, a lot. So I work as a sales representative for the cigar manufacturer now. So instead of being stuck in one place, now I go all over, right? And I've got 4 states to cover. So I enjoy being on the road, and I'm really not quite ready. And at this point in my life, I don't want to be settled down in any one place. I have my roots here. I'm based out of Kansas City. I've got my hometown, Liberty. But I enjoy the freedom that comes with being on the road and traveling. That's just something that I've really come to appreciate this past year with my new job. So
tell me
maybe one day.
So how did you get to Fidel's?
So Fidel's came about because I had graduated from Co. in 2013, and I moved back home, and I was living with my dad at the time up in Liberty, and I decided that, at that time, I was still kind of looking for things to do after college, right? Like graduate school. I was looking at law school was my big thing, but as far as being able to afford it, really having the finances and everything in order to do that, I wasn't sure if I wanted to make that commitment. So I decided to get a paralegal certification, and Penn Valley, which is part of the Metropolitan Community College program of Kansas City, they had a paralegal program, and they're located down in Midtown. Well, I decided I'm going to move out of my dad's place, get my own spot. So I moved down to the Midtown area, and Midtown is very close to Westport.
Yeah.
And so when I moved down there, on the weekends or when I wasn't busy, I would walk down to Westport, and I would, check out the bars. And I knew about Fidel's when I was in high school. I graduated high school, and one year when I came back on sabbatical, I went to Fidel's, and I had probably one of my first premium cigars there.
Do you remember it?
It was a Graycliff.
Graycliff. Oh yeah.
Because Fidel's used to be the Graycliff Lounge, right? That company sponsored Fidel's, so I don't really think I could fully appreciate what that was. You know, a $20. It was probably about a $20 cigar, maybe. But I remember enjoying it, enjoying the experience of being there. I mean, it was a cool spot. You know, I didn't know any other place existed like that. Mm-hmm. And again, when I went to they didn't have any place like that up in Cedar Rapids. So when I moved back, you know, I decided that I was going to make Fidel's a hangout spot. And so I would go there usually on the weekends, sometimes on weeknights. I got to know some of the people that worked there, some of the regulars that were there. But I would say the thing that really sparked my love of that place, and it's fitting too, because of what's happening right now, what's going to happen today. What happened...
Well, you scare me. What's happening today?
Well, the Royals are back in the playoffs.
All right, Jesus. You're like, doom is impending.
No.
No.
Good things.
All
Good
right.
things. No, I mean, when the Royals went back to the playoffs, you know, that was kind of a big moment for the city. And I remember going to Fidel's and watching some of the playoff games there. And in 2004, this is 2014, we're talking about when they first went back. And I remember when they finally clinched the World Series spot, my dad called me up and said, hey, so the Royals are going to the World Series. It's a big deal. You know, you and I, like, we could go to a game, right? Mm-hmm. I'd have to shell out a lot of money for that.
Yeah, especially the first postseason game.
Yeah.
Or first postseason since, 85 when we went back?
I think they were like $1,000 tickets just for standing, just to stand.
Just to be in the presence.
To be there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you know what? Fuck that. Like, why don't I come down from Liberty down to Westport and we'll hang out and watch the game together?
Yeah.
I said, oh, that's great. Yeah, I'd love that. So there was a restaurant called McCoy's.
Yep.
It's not there anymore now, unfortunately, but I'd been there for a long time, and my sister used to go there. I went there a number of times. I knew people that worked there, but I took my dad there. We had dinner at McCoy's, and I think his mother, my grandmother, and step-grandfather were all with us. Well, they left. And they left early, like around the 5th inning or so, and I can't remember if we were winning or losing. But I remember we finished dinner, and I said to my dad, you know, I know a place down the street where we could get a cigar. And my dad's not really a cigar smoker. He was a cigarette smoker, much more than anything else. But I said, I know a place down the street. It's called Fidel's. We could watch the rest of the game there and have a cigar if you want. He said, yeah, that sounds like a good time. So we walked down the street, went in, each bought a cigar. I can't remember what we bought. My dad normally didn't smoke cigars, but he'd enjoyed them in the past. And so we sat down in the lounge, and there was a group of regulars there. I didn't know them. They were a bunch of older guys, but we all hung out, watched the game. And I remember all the older guys that were there were cracking jokes, and my dad was and my dad, who was kind of a social introvert for the most part, you know, he was laughing right along with him, and I was too. I mean, we were having a blast watching the game back there, and mostly it was it wasn't the fact that we could have a cigar was great.
Always the people.
That's the people, you know, and. Unfortunately, Fidel's had to close at 10. This is a weeknight, and the game was still going. I think it went into extra innings, but Dad and I stepped out, and I remember he took a cigarette, lit it up, and said, you know, Phil, as much as I enjoyed the game, I think I enjoyed the color commentary a lot more. So I'll that is one of the first and best memories I have of that place. And that's really why I fell in love with it. And sadly, my dad passed away a year later, in 2015.
I am sorry to hear that, my friend.
Yep. He had a heart attack. He ran 10K down the plaza, which, by the way, my dad was the furthest thing from an athlete you can imagine. But that one year, he got a wild hair up his ass and decided he was going to do it. And when he crossed the finish line, he collapsed. They took him to St. Luke's nearby, and 4 or 5 days later, he was gone.
Jeez.
So, and that was September of 2015. That was right before the Royals went back and won it. So, but I'll always have that memory of my dad at Fidel's. And 3 years later, they had a part-time opening at Fidel's. And Nick Woods, who was just taking over the place. Ben Gardner had been the former general manager. You know Ben, obviously. He has La Cultura. He opened up La Cultura Cigar Lounge in the Crossroads. Well, Nick Woods, who was his assistant manager, took over the place and said, hey, I came in one day and we were talking, and I'm like, hey, are you guys hiring? Because, frankly, I was looking for something to do.
Yeah.
Like, I had a job, a full-time job, and I didn't particularly enjoy it, but I wanted something else on the side to kind of,
Yeah, for something for fun.
Something fun, something engaging, not like just doing clerical work, which is what I was doing. I was working for a subcontractor, a government subcontractor, and Nick was like, yeah, I got a couple evenings open. And I said, is it hard to do this, to sell cigars? And he goes, no, not really, but I was intimidated by it. I thought, oh shit, like I'm going to have to learn all the product.
I think everybody kind of is intimidated because it's like it's a luxury kind of thing that people think it's a luxury thing, but it's really not. It's just like, it's a sit back and enjoy kind of thing. But people get intimidated because like we see a lot of people come in smoking cigars. They're all business people and like, oh, I got to know this and that. Like, actually, you got to just know a few things.
Really, that's all it takes. And I learned that quickly, like that, his rule of thumb, old boss's rule of thumb was pick a cigar out that's mild that you can stand behind, pick a medium strength, medium body cigar you can stand behind, pick a full bodied one, and then memorize a couple flavored ones and you're good to go.
Yeah, it's pretty good advice there.
Yeah, just something practical and not overly complicated.
Yeah. So then you got to Fidel's, and then you start managing Fidel's.
I did a year later.
A year later?
Wow,
you got thrown into the fire.
Well, yeah, because at the time, my boss, we were after a year. We had a lot of turnover, which granted most retail places do, but to really run that place, a place that's in Westport in an entertainment district that's open 7 days a week. That's a lot. It was a lot for my boss to handle. So he said, look, I really could use an assistant manager. And at that time, I was working full-time. I was actually making bread at a sandwich shop called Bay Boy. I quit my government job, and I just wanted to do things that I wanted to do to enjoy them. I was still working on my paralegal certification, but I was just trying to, make money and also enjoy doing it, right? I was trying to follow passions at this point. So I knew my boss needed the help, and I decided, you know what, I'll step up, go full-time, be assistant manager. So it was more just me kind of like making sure that the evening shifts were covered, helping him out with inventory, with hiring, and occasionally with firing. We didn't have to do a lot of that, but there was a lot of turnover. So yeah, that was 2019. September is when I became assistant manager. And then 3 years after that, I think, it was 2022, that my boss decided that he wanted to leave Fidel's, move out to Las Vegas, pursue filmmaking, pursue cinematography, which is what his passion was.
Yeah.
And so I had an opportunity, and I stepped up and became general manager. And then I continued to run the place. I was there 2022 all the way through to 2023. And Then an opportunity came available with
for
Perdomo, which sadly it came available in a way that
not any of us wanted that.
Yeah. Charles was a good man, a good friend of mine, and I really so he was the former rep, obviously, for the company. I got to know him because I think he started with Perdomo the same year. Yeah, it was the same year that I had taken over the shop, and it was in 2023. And he would come by and we would talk, and he used to tell me about the days that he would hang out at Fidel's back when he was just a customer, so he could kind of relate to what was going on, things that were happening at Fidel's or in the industry. And he was able to swap stories about some of the regulars that used to hang out there back in the day. And I really enjoyed getting to know him. I enjoyed getting to know the product. He introduced me, like I think I'd had a couple of Perdomos before then, but we never carried the product at our store. There were a couple times where we were kind of on the verge of bringing it in, and then something fell through and didn't happen. But when Charles came along, I really appreciated just that he was so consistent and thorough. And
that's a good way to describe him.
Yeah. and persistent.
Yeah.
Very persistent.
So you ran Fidel's, so you get kind of how to run a cigar lounge. So tell me, I guess, what was the best thing about running a cigar lounge to you?
Oh, for me, honestly, it was when the reps came in. Because I got free cigars.
Yeah.
My staff got free cigars. So, plus it was kind of a nice, a lot of guys that were reps had also worked in retail, had worked in the industry. So they could kind of relate to whatever issues or problems I might be having.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what made me want to become a rep. But as far as running it goes, I mean, I would say when you have a great day, I mean, a really good day of business, right? Mm-hmm. When you sell a shit ton of product and everything, and not everything goes smoothly. In fact, oftentimes it doesn't.
No.
As you're very well aware. I'll tell you the best day of work that I had. And it was in it's funny because my best day as a customer was my dad and I watching the Royals in the World Series there. Well, my best day as an employee there was in 2022 when the Chiefs first went back to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
And we did a big Super Bowl.
2019.
Oh, it's 2019?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I thought, 2019 season, but I think it was
2020.
2020 was when we played, was the 49ers in Miami.
Yeah.
So I remember that. We did a big event for that. We actually partnered with My Father Cigars and did a My Father Super Bowl party. Bought, a lot of products, got a lot of swag, a lot of, free goods to give out. We did it as a ticketed event. We had beer on tap. We had food, everything. And we had a pretty good turnout even before the game started.
Yeah.
We weren't really sure what to expect, right? Because a lot of people in the past, they'll watch the Super Bowl at home, right, with their family or go out to a party or something like that. So we weren't really sure what it would be like. But with the Chiefs being in the Super Bowl, with the local team being in it, we figured we'd get a pretty decent turnout. But we'd never done a Super Bowl party before. So I think before the game started, we had probably 10, 20 people show up. And that, as it went on, the game started and we had more people after that come in, kind of coming and going. And it was just a very intense day, all throughout, because we're, trying to sell product, obviously, and do promotions, but also, we're glued to the game. And finally, that moment comes when the game ends, we win. All of Westport erupts, celebration.
I went down there. I don't remember much, but I went down there.
Yeah. And it was really what happened afterwards that just blew me away. There was a whole crowd of people, the streets were shut down. Well, of course, we had won the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
What are people going to want to do?
Smoke cigars.
Yeah, this is a celebratory occasion. So all of a sudden, we had wave after wave after wave of people coming in, crowding the place, and it was just Nick and I working.
Oh, yeah. So a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot.
Yeah. So him and I just get behind the counter, and we had 2 cash registers, and we were both just going. Like, we had no time to help anyone, like pick out any cigars for them. And we had all the product, we had all the My Father stuff out on display and whatever else. And we were just like, okay, like, let's just stand back here and just
get through the night.
And our adrenaline was so up that we kept going. And I remember, like, we were going to close at like probably 9 or so, but Nick would look at me occasionally and go, hey, you want to keep going, right? And I'm like, hell yeah, I want to keep going. And we were shouting things out. We were cutting cigars, lighting them. I mean...
Did you at least get to enjoy the night?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But I enjoyed the night in the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I had never had such a rush of people and we never did, I think, even since then.
Yeah.
Even the year that the 1 year that we won it, following that, not the next year, I think, but 2 years later or something like that. No, that was one of the biggest highs, the biggest feelings of just accomplishment is that you're there and you've got this big crowd of people coming in, and I'm standing there next to my boss, next to my mentor and friend, and the two of us are just slinging sticks, selling them. But yes, afterwards, when I think it was about 11:30, it was before midnight, we finally were like, okay, let's shut this down now, because we were just getting kind of drunk stragglers at that point. And I had a bottle of champagne stashed away, so we pulled that out, lit one more up. Oh, and also during this whole time, we actually had one regular that was there named Steve. Big, tall guy, long hair, kind of looked like Sam Elliott or Chris Christopherson. And I remember Nick pointed at Steve and said, hey, Steve, you told me you've always wanted to work here, right? Well, now's your chance. Stand behind that table with all of My Father cigars and hand them out, you know. So when all things was said and done, yeah, we were we felt like, and I think we made more money that day than we ever did on any single day that I worked there.
Yeah, now it's kind of like, now when we win, it's like people kind of like, oh yeah, we won, yay! Like again, I'm like, all right, we're getting a little spoiled now. Because, like, I did a Super Bowl party here when I first opened, because I opened in March of 23, but then, like, I had, like, a kind of like a pre-opening, like, Super Bowl party for my members that signed up early. And, like, we won. That was the second time we won. And so, you know, it was a big deal. Everyone's happy, you know. The street down here was going crazy. And then, like, when we won last year, or I guess this last February, people are like, yay, yeah, we won again. They're like, okay, like we'll see about next year. I'm like, all right, we're losing that luster of like,
I know,
we're getting used to winning, which is nice.
It's nice, but also it you know, it's like you can't go back and.
Yeah, that first time was always like the biggest like celebration. It's like we didn't win for 50 years, especially at the Royals. It was like 30 years. So. It's like once you hit that mark, you're like, like the breath of fresh air. But now it's like, all right, that's cool. Like, this is great. Like, it's still awesome, don't get me wrong, but I think people aren't, you know, that excited as like the first time, which makes sense.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So, you told me about the good things. What about, like, what are the headaches about running a lounge that you've noticed?
Well, you know, there's a number of things. I mean, I would say that when you're managing a place, when I was managing a place, I had 5 different groups of people that I had to deal with, right? I had customers, obviously. That was one. And most of them were good.
Yeah. And then the homeless.
Yes. It was Westport. So we had a fair share of that. But I would say dealing with 5 different groups of people, customers, employees, staff, which, most of the people, even if they didn't stick around that long, which I get because it's retail, we had a number of good people that worked there that did care about what they did. But still having to manage staff, having to manage a schedule and, worry, okay, is this person going to show up on time or do this or do that? Are they going to close everything out and actually clean everything and do everything the right way? And so having to manage that staff, the vendors were pretty easy to work with. I never had any issues with my reps, or the manufacturers. They were, again, because they all were getting paid to make sure that I was getting product, and it's a business partnership. But you do occasionally have to deal with issues when it comes to vendors and suppliers. So dealing with that, dealing with the building, the space, that was a big headache. Because there's a lot of it, there's, in our place, and I don't know, you've probably dealt with it here too, because this is a pretty old building.
Yeah, it's over 100 years old.
Yep. So Westport was the same way, over 100-year-old building, had a lot of issues. In fact, Christmas Eve of 22, just after I'd first taken over, the back room, there was a big pipe in the ceiling that burst. And flooded the place. Ugh. Water came through everywhere. It was going to be like Hurricane Katrina, basically.
Christmas Eve?
This is Christmas Eve, yeah. And we were
not warm outside.
No. And fortunately, I was working that day. Like, I had the shop open at least until probably I was going to be out of there by 6 p.m. so I could go home and celebrate, the holiday with family. But I'm glad that we were open, because I was there, my old boss was there, a couple regulars were there, and I remember we were watching a movie. It was Muppets Christmas Carol.
What?
And no one was there, right? We were hanging out in the lounge, just kind of relaxing, and then all of a sudden we hear the alarm going off, the security system, which is in our back room, and Nick's like, my boss, who's still there at the time, he's like, what's going on? So he gets up. And he walks over and he opens the door, and there is a waterfall coming down, like just a big torrent of water from a pipe that had burst in the ceiling. And it was just everywhere, like pouring on top of the computer, the printer, all the equipment. I mean, everywhere. And obviously now into the lounge. And I remember we were panicking, like, what do we do? And I was like, all right, let's get everything off the ground, obviously. The walk-in where we kept all of our back stock was right next to that storage room. So we took everything out that was sitting on the floor. So none of the product, no cigars were harmed or damaged during this. In fact, really the only thing that we lost as a result of that was all the equipment that we used, our server, router, which was a pain in the ass. We had to get all that stuff replaced, but fortunately we had insurance, and, that covers that. But, so that was definitely not a trial by fire, but a trial by water. Having to deal with a crisis like that, after only taking over the shop for, 2 months.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so you really got thrown into the water, as you would say.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's some headaches. So, went to Fidel's, ran that for a while, then went to Perdomo. So why did you pick Perdomo as the cigar rep you wanted to work for? Or cigar industry you wanted to work for? I picked Perdomo just because
they're a company that has been around for a long, long time. They are, one of the most well-recognized manufacturers in the business. They're known for their quality, known for the consistency. I really fell in love with it though, just because I had met and got to know Charles very well.
Yeah.
Charles was a good friend of mine and really I could tell he was passionate about the product. When he passed, which was October of last year, I knew that Perdomo was probably going to be looking for someone to hire. And there were, I think, a couple other companies at the time that were hiring. There was one that was hiring out of state. And I was really looking to move. I'd been at Fidel's for 5 years, had, now run it for a year at that point, because I took over in October of 22. October of 23, Charles had passed. I'd been there. And really, I wanted the opportunity to work for a company that has such a reputation. It's not often that you can say you work for a company that's vertically integrated, that's growing its own tobacco, that has such it's been around for over 30 years now. We just celebrated our 30th. We celebrated our 30th, literally the same year that I took over at Fidel's, which was 22. We started in 92. So the opportunity to work for a company that has that kind of history, that legacy, that was a big deal for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Perdomo is a damn good cigar. And I will say, and I'm not just saying that because you're here.
I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. But it flies off the shelves here too, so it's good. So tell me the day in the life of a cigar rep. What is it like being a cigar rep?
It's a lot of travel, obviously, depending on, the territory that you cover. I cover 4 states. I've got Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska, just those 4, which is actually pretty manageable. So, I get up. I usually will check my emails. I'll go over sales reports, look at, how is this brand doing? How is this brand doing, et cetera. I'll check my back orders to see what my customers might have that hadn't shipped out. Now, we usually don't deal a lot with back orders. We're pretty good about shipping product out, but, occasionally I'll have a 1 box or 2 box that customer had ordered that is now available. So I'll let them know. I'll send them a text or call them and say, hey, you've got this product available. You want me to ship it? And you want me to throw anything else on there? And then I'll start my day out. I'll go visit my first shop, my first client. I'll show up. I'll check in with my office, check in to make sure that, I basically will go over the numbers to see, okay, how is this place doing with X, Y, and Z? What brands are they carrying? Are they selling more of this, selling more champagnes versus 10th Maduro? Basically get a feel for, okay, how is the shop doing? How's the account doing?
Yeah.
And what can we do to maybe move the needle a little bit more, push a certain product or brand? What can we do to expand? What can we do to merchandise better? Because we're really big on merchandising. And then I'll go in, I'll, sit down, I'll meet with the owner, I'll meet with you, I'll talk to the staff. A lot of times I'll go in and I'll do product training. So we're big on that. I'll go into the humidor sometimes with a staff member and just say, hey, let's cover the product lines. Let me tell you a little bit about this product, give you the bullet points. That way it helps them sell it better. And then after I'm done there and I have a cigar, usually I'll move on to the next place.
Just ongoing.
And just one after another, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a long day.
Yeah. And then sometimes I'll end up working events.
Yeah.
Like this past weekend I did
Ash and Anvil, right?
Ash and Anvil, and I was at the grand opening for a place out in Hutchinson.
Hutch, that seems like a pretty cool place.
It's very cool, yeah.
I'm glad they have it down there because when I went down there for the academy. There was nothing down there.
Oh, really? No
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah. So I'm glad they have something down there. So this is like an off the wall question, but it fits. You had to smoke one cigar for the rest of your life, what would it be? And you don't have to pick Perdomo. You can.
Just one. That's a hard.
Just one cigar. You're stuck. Someone says, like, hey, you can only smoke one cigar, and that's it. Every day, if you want it.
I'd have to go with the 30th anniversary Sun Grown.
Uh-huh.
That's an incredible blend. I could smoke that any time of, I'm picking that cigar just because I could smoke that at any time of day, morning, noon, night. It's got great complexity. It's not overpowering either, because I like full-bodied cigars and I like mild cigars, and I like everything. I like things that are in between. I think the only thing I wouldn't probably pick would be something infused. But, but hey, there's a customer for that. I'd have to go with 30th anniversary Sun Grown.
So what's the best cigar you've ever smoked?
Well, that's hard to choose because sometimes it's conditional on the occasion, right?
I tell people that all the time. So I'm glad you answered that way, because people ask me all the time, what's your favorite cigar? And I always say the same thing, the one I'm smoking.
What I'm smoking, right?
Yeah.
I figured you'd ask me that question.
Oh, yeah. But because most people have the same answer, like that answer. Like, it just depends on who I'm with. Like, if I'm with good company, good people, then that cigar I'm smoking is probably the best cigar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The cigar is just like a catalyst to bring people together and have good conversation. Like, you're really not thinking. It's like same thing with bourbon. It's like, oh, what's the best bourbon you've had? It's like, the best bourbon I've had is the one I'm with my friends drinking and relaxing and having a good time. Like, I don't remember what it is. And like, I do remember what it is, but it's just because of that occasion. So, yeah. So if you weren't in the cigar world, what would you be doing right now?
Good question. Well, I would probably be doing something with politics. I know that I was looking into law school at one point, and I think I would probably be doing something along those lines, working in law, working in the legal profession. I did do paralegal training. One area of law that really fascinated me was elder law, estate law. I'm very close to my grandmother, and when my dad passed, I had to kind of deal with some of the estate issues. So it's not as exciting as, say, being in criminal defense or litigation, but
that can get boring too at times. I came from that world.
Yeah. Well, yeah. On the law,
a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
On the enforcement side of things, definitely.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. So last question. So why, in your opinion, why are cigars so special?
I would say they're special because of the fact that this right here is a premium hand-rolled product. This is something that's made with hundreds and hundreds of hands. It comes from a tradition that goes back centuries, at least to the 1600s when they first started manufacturing them out of Spain.
Yep.
What makes them special is that, this is an artisanal product. It's not something that's, purely made by machine, right? You have people growing tobacco, doing the primings, picking it, curing it in the barns, aging it, fermenting it. There's so much involved, like the amount of hours and labor. They say it takes over 300 hands, I think, just to produce one cigar.
Jeez.
Right?
Yeah.
I think my company too, we have I think we counted out the steps. There's 3,054 steps to making a single Perdomo cigar.
3,054.
Yeah. Now, if you ask me to name each individual step out,
Well, that was my next question. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, I think that's what makes them so special is that they're made by people. It's just like what makes smoking them so special. What makes hanging out, it's the people, right? Well, the fact of the matter is, this is a premium hand rolled product, and we aim for consistency, we aim for quality, but I think what makes a cigar so magical is the fact that every single premium cigar that you smoke at some point has been touched by human hands, seen someone plying the wrapper leaf, doing the binder filler, the bunching. All of that is done by human hands.
Yeah.
It's one of the few big industries left where everything is being made by hand, right? So much now is automated and is made through mass manufacturing means with heavy equipment, and it takes a lot of the skilled labor out. This is an industry where skilled labor is still a very big factor.
Yeah.
And the fact that, this cigar right here, this 10th Maduro that I'm smoking, MSRP goes for around 10 to 11 bucks. The fact that it's only that much, and literally it's got over 6 years of aging on it, and so many hands have touched this. The fact that someone could buy this, for the price of a lunch basically is pretty special.
All right. So last thing before we end, I know I said that was the last question, but this is,
Yeah, don't worry.
why should people buy Perdomo?
They should buy Perdomo because they know that you're getting a quality, consistent product, a cigar that has a lot of tradition, history behind it. It's over 30 years old. I mean, look, we pride ourselves on that. We bourbon barrel age every wrapper leaf. That's something that Charles used to talk about with me all the time. This says every single Perdomo cigar has a bourbon barrel aged wrapper. Every single Perdomo cigar has tobacco that's been barrel aged for a minimum of 5 to 6 years.
What kind of bourbon is it? Do you remember?
They use we use barrels that are American white oak. We use them because that oak is sort of porous, so it allows things like ammonia to pass through it, and it cleans up the tobacco. It doesn't make it taste like bourbon. It's more just to caramelize tobacco, make it richer, give it more flavor, more aroma, more color, more texture. But we source them from the United States. I think we get a lot of them from the Weller-Stitzel distillery.
Yeah.
So if you've had Buffalo Trace before, the barrels that Buffalo Trace are made in, those are the kinds of barrels that we're using. And the charcoal lining on the inside of the barrel acts as the filtration agent.
Yeah.
So every cigar that we make, 100% of them, they're all draw tested. The good, like you asked earlier, right? What's the best cigar you've had? Well, the cigar that you're smoking.
Yep.
Well, what's a bad cigar? Well, a bad cigar, I mean, there are cigars you might not like because of the flavor or what have you, but a bad cigar is a cigar you can't smoke.
Yeah.
And if you can't draw smoke through, if you cut it and you've got light it and you've got an uneven burn, that's not a cigar you're going to enjoy.
So our friend Darius that we share always tells me, life's too short for a shitty cigar.
Yep.
So I use that all the time. So if I have a cigar I'm smoking and it's not good, I'm trying to push my way through it. I always remember that, like, life's too short for a shitty cigar. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to smoke this cigar.
Yeah.
I'm going to get something good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Phil, appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a pleasure. Yeah. Yeah. It's always been good seeing you. And I hope much success in your future. And hopefully we can do a cut light event. I saw you do an Ashton and I was like, I got to get him down here and do one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We should.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should.
It's going to happen.
And thank you for supporting the brand.
Yeah.
Thank you for supporting me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I had a blast being on here today, just getting to hang out, chill with you, and, talk about Perdomo, talk about life. And
yeah.
This is a good time, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad we finally got to sit down and do this.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Make sure you follow us. And we will catch you next week on the Strawberry Hill Podcast. I'm out.
Goodbye, everybody.